Hi, this is Giorgino from Inspire Innovations. I will show you in this video a quick demo on API Connect. As you may know, API Connect is the market leading of API management solutions. It enables automated API creation with built-in security and governance. Using API Connect, we can create APIs for hospitals or clearing houses to interact with our system in a secure way and of course in real time. As an example, we will see an API for claims submission. I have already prepared some properties for the claims to be accepted based on our experience with other customers. Of course, the claim fields can be fully customized by bupa, but to be aligned with version 5010 of HIPAA EDI standards, we can internally map bupa properties to EDI 837 format. Claims submission to bupa can be achieved using three different methods: by filling an online form, or by sending an email with EDI 837 standard inside, and finally by calling the API directly. Replying to hospitals or clearing houses can be made also using multiple methods. So we can reply using an EDI 835 standard format. We can reply as well through email or by creating a web page where we can query a specific claim and check its status and all other details. Finally, using API call, which is the preferred method. Basically, I will focus on API calls in this example, and I will show you two operations. The first one is submitting a new claim, and the second one is fetching the number. Here's the API Connect interface. It has multiple tabs. The APIs where we can create our API, we will show later on the APIs that we have created for bupa. We have the models tab where we can create our models. For example, this claim model that I have created. We can add all the properties of the claim, and we can specify the different type of these properties, set if it's required or not. If this is an index, we can add an optional description. And of course, we can create our data source to store the data. So whenever we submit a new claim, this new claim can be saved to a database defined here. So we can have a local database, and we can have a database of any type, like for example in-memory database or IBM DB2 or MySQL or Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server. So it has connections to all database types. For the sake of this demo, I have created a local database. So this DB is a local storage database. I'll go back now to API, and I will show you how easy it is to create a new web service. And let's wait for the page to load. So here you can see that we have a local web server running to host these web services. It has an HTTPS and HTTP ports, so we can access the server, and we can see that it's started and the uptime. So we can publish our web services to this local gateway server, or we can publish from here to Bluemix, and our web service will be published on the cloud. We can define multiple properties to our API. Of course, the name and the version number. We can set the contact person. A lot of properties, but I will focus mainly on the paths, where we can specify. For example, let me go to the claim. This is the claim. It has multiple operations. We can post the claims. We can get the list of claims for each method or operation. We can have parameters like a filter, for example, to get specific number of claims, or to get claims based on this specific query. So it's very easy to define our methods here. Our operation can be of any type, so post, get, delete, put. As you can see, we can create a path, and inside this path we can add our operations of any type. In the definitions tab, we can create our objects, and for each object we can create or we can add all the properties. Of course, for each property we can set if this is required or not and the type. Some properties can be objects as well, so it could be used for groups or loops. For example, activity, diagnosis. For the diagnosis, for example, I set it as mandatory. So inside the claim, it's mandatory. A loop of diagnosis should be present in order to submit a claim. Now, if we go to diagnosis object, it has the type and code as mandatory properties, while the other field, which is diagnosis information, is optional. So we will see now in the example when we will run the test that I cannot submit a claim without setting the diagnosis or sending at least one diagnosis object that has a type and a code. So other features in the API designer include the source code view, where we can see the source code of all the definitions we have made. We can simply import and export to another environment by copy paste the content of this pane. We can also edit inside here. Finally, if we go to Assemble tab, we can test our APIs. We can put multiple gateways, and we can catch exceptions. So in this example, we will simply invoke the web service by calling the test functionality. So here, no need for another tool to test our web service like SOAP UI. We can internally test our web service using the API designer. Here we can select any operations that we need to call. So first I will call the operation that will create a claim in the database. So this is submitting a new claim. And of course, in order to submit a new claim, we need to provide the claim details, just like the definition we have defined by providing all the fields and properties. And you'll see now we have the option to generate the schema, so we know what type of JSON file we need to submit with this API call in order to create a claim. And we have the generate that will generate a test or an example call or JSON file based on properties set for this API. Let's say we have in the contract the package name which is required. It will create a number for the package name. And here you can see when I call the web service, I got a 2000 response, and this means the web service succeeded, and I got one claim inserted to the database. Now I can check using another web service called the number or the total number of claims in the database, which should be incremented by 1. Here I select the web service, get claims count. This web service doesn't take any parameters or arguments, and when I click on invoke, I will receive also 200 status code, which is a successful operation, and the count is 2. Now I can invoke another time, create claim. So I will create another claim to make sure this count will be incremented as well. So here I'm posting another claim. I was mentioning that we have a generate method that will generate dummy data in order to test our web service. Once invoked, I can see that the claim is saved to the database because I have a response to 200, and back to the count. Here we can see that the total number is 3 now, which is incremented by 1. So I have all my claims submitted and saved. Another feature is to explore the API with all the methods and operations that we have created. So if we access the Explore tab, we can have a view on all the methods and operations and web services created. Of course, we can search, we can filter for a specific method or web service call, and we can check all the details, and we have a way to try it directly from the designer. We have the address in order to call it, and what parameters I should put inside, and an example how to use it. So for example, I search for claim.count method. I have all the details in order to use it, and a sample response and request. Here I'm trying to call it directly from the web browser, and the same results that I got recently. Finally, we can publish our project. We can publish our API to an internal API Connect server, or we can publish to the cloud, to a Bluemix application on the cloud. I can set my application, my project name, and I can select the application I need to publish. I can select which version, if this is a new application or I'm replacing an existing one, so it would be another version. And once published, I can go to Bluemix, let's say, on the cloud, and I can see it that it's live. So I have a wonderful analytics and monitoring tool on the cloud. I can see the number of instances, as total allocation, total memory allocated for this web service, and I can see the number of connections. Moreover, I can see the logs, so I can detect any bottleneck in my web service.